Let me introduce Ira, and I could spend a lot of time, but I'm not going to waste the time. I'm going to let him come up. But we're going to hear from him, and he is the founder and president of Co-Opportunities, an Atlanta-based consulting firm that has advised clients such as Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Walmart, American Airlines, just to name a few. And again, when we started talking about personal branding, I don't know anyone better who can talk about this subject. Prior to consulting, Ira served in executive-level roles at a number of multinational food companies, including Sara Lee and Raymer Foods. Ira is a former collegiate and World Cup athlete, a college coach, and has a national championship in youth basketball to his credit. Ira also is an expert in personal branding, and I think you're going to really enjoy what he has to say. So without further ado, Ira Blumenthal, come to the stage.
Well, they told me I was going to make a speech in Missouri. That's why I brought my harmonica. You know, folky futurist Bob Dylan once wrote, "There's a battle outside and it's raging. It'll shake your windows and rattle your walls." What's the next line? The times they are a-changing. But you know, when Dylan wrote that song, that poem in 1963, the most important stanza, to my mind, is the final stanza. The line it is drawn, the curse it is cast. The first one now might later be last. The times they are changing. I tried to get the piano on the airplane, and I couldn't do that. That's why I brought the... Well, the reality is that we have seen all kinds of changes and all kinds of challenges in our world. And the journey that I want to take you on over the next couple of minutes is a major change in the way we look at brands. We look at brands as being a corporate brand or a product brand or a service brand. There are some great brands in this room. Met a lot of you earlier. But what's new, what's a change is that we're starting to look at and think about ourselves as being brands. This is a little bit, here we go, okay. Individuals. Personal brand. Now, if you take the postulates and the theories and the formulas of corporate and product and service branding and apply it to you, that's what personal branding is all about. Now, we think of personal branding, we certainly can easily understand famous people. We know what Mother Teresa stands for, or Elton John, okay, or Derek Jeter, or Martha Stewart, and others. And we look at them as brands, obviously, because they're celebrities. But the reality is, you are a brand as well. And I will tell you, regardless of what your business card says, you are the most important brand on your business card. And you've got to figure out a way to raise the bar, to absolutely nurture, extend, and grow your brands. So, the threshold question I want to start this session off with is, what if you thought of yourself as a brand? Now, a couple of years ago, Time Magazine featured the Person of the Year, and the Person of the Year was you. And that's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about yourself as a personal brand. Okay, here we go. We're in a branded world. I've got 5 kids. I've never heard any of my children say, Dad, I cut my finger. Any plastic strips in the medicine case? What do they ask for? Band-Aid. You know, by the same token, we eat Jell-O. No one goes to a bar and says to the bartender, I'd like to have a rum and cola. I have a Kohler, K-O-H-L-E-R, hot tub at my home. But I can still say to my wife, I'm exhausted. You will find me in the jacuzzi. It's not a jacuzzi. I have a Toshiba copy machine at my office, and I can turn around and ask my assistant, I've done this for 20 years, please shoot me a Xerox. We are in a branded world. Well, what is a brand? A brand is about a promise. A brand is about a promise, and each one of you personally make promises, whether it be to your spouses, to your family, to your kids, to your neighborhood, to your church, to your companies. So a brand is about a promise, point number 1. Number 2, a brand is about understanding. I really need to understand what that brand stands for. You need to understand what brand you stands for. And a brand is about experience, and that creates a relationship. Okay? And by the way, these slides are all yours. If you want to copy these slides, just ask any of your wonderful hosts here at Hallmark. By the way, how about a nice round of applause to the nice folks at Hallmark for putting this together? This is a terrific venue. Brands stand for something. One would think that Starbucks stands for coffee. Not true. My beautiful bride, my redheaded bride from Missouri, actually, no longer calls Starbucks Starbucks. She will say to me, let's go grab a cup of coffee at $4, because it is, okay? But Starbucks is not about coffee. Starbucks is about experience. They lower the lights. They put a little funky background music, okay? They have someone wear an apron. They call them baristas, whether they know how to make coffee or not. And oh, by the way, when you place your order, they ask you something really interesting. What's your name? See, when you go to Burger King, McDonald's, Hardee's, Wendy's, Carl's, Jack in the Box, Sonic In-N-Out, Rallies, and Checkers, they give you a number. But the experience at Starbucks is about name. Well, it is about experience. What does Walmart stand for? Well, let me recite what Walmart stands for. We are a mass merchandiser with hundreds of thousands of SKUs, and we market and sell national brands at everyday low prices, okay? And service-oriented, on and on and on and on, okay? Brands stand for something. What about Harley-Davidson? Harley-Davidson almost 12 years ago was nearly bankrupt because their brand fell in some tough times. Here's what I'd like you all to do, okay? I'd like you to all put 2 hands out in front of you. All right, come on. 2 hands. Now, when I say 3, we are going to, in unison, make noise as if we are riding on a motorcycle. Wait. Made in Japan. 1, 2, 3. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we are at the home of Hallmark. I want you to raise your hands up high. Let's go. Everyone, put your hands up on the hog. Now we'll make a different sound. 1, 2, 3. See now, brand Harley-Davidson stood for body piercing, tattoos, leather jackets, and gangs 15, 20, 30 years ago. Today, Harley-Davidson's brand is a lifestyle brand. Doctors, lawyers, okay, all kinds of executives, it's okay to have a Harley. 13% of Harley owners right now are female. That brand has absolutely reinvented themselves. I've got a buddy who's the founder of Quiznos Subs. He is the president of a fierce motorcycle gang in Denver called JUB, Jewish Urban Bikers. What about Coca-Cola? Coca-Cola stands for happiness. The most important sound in Coca-Cola is brands stand for something. What does Volvo stand for? Safety. Didn't have to think about that very long, all right? Well, the reality is, what does Hallmark stand for? You know, it's real interesting. Even though I know the history of Hallmark and the Hall family, if you look the word Hallmark up in the dictionary, you'll see words such as zenith, apex, top, best, etc., etc. So it's not by accident that the logo has a crown. And if you look at the Hallmark website, which I did, you will see the word best used throughout. You know when you care enough to give the very best. But it talks about the best writers and using the best paper and only the best source of supply for ink and identifying and qualifying the best franchisees. So brands stand for something. What do you stand for? I know what your company stands for. Perhaps you do as well. Maybe what your products, but what do you stand for? So I'm going to take you through a very, very quick journey and give you a couple of highlights on what great brands do and what you need to be thinking about. Great brands differentiate themselves. There's some unique, sustainable point of difference. Now look at some of these brands, okay? All these brands are playing in similar spaces. FedEx and UPS, Fox and CNN, okay, Costco, Sam's, Google, Yahoo, Coach. They're all great brands, but they're all positioned differently. They're all positioned differently. By the same token, Amazon and Barnes & Noble, clicker here, Microsoft and Apple, and on and on and on. So what it says is, one key to successful branding is for you to think about how you differentiate yourself. You may have the same exact job as the person in the cubby or the office next to you, but what's your USP? USP stands for unique selling proposition. What makes me different? Where can you buy a chili and a Frosty at Burger King? No. That's one USP for brand Wendy's, okay? And the list goes on and on. And whether you're a great company, okay, like Hallmark or Walmart or Sam's or CVS or whatever the company is, you've got to figure out what that unique, discernible, sustainable point of difference is. Another important postulate in the world of branding is everything communicates. Everything communicates. See, people will turn around and judge you and your brand by what you do and what you don't do. For example, you get to work every day at 9 o'clock promptly, and you leave at 5 o'clock every day prompt, but you work hard. You do the work of 3 people, but you get there at 9 and you leave at 5, while your colleagues seem to get there at 8:30 and they leave at 5:30. Their perception is that you are lazy. You're not a hard worker, because that communicates. Now, how do you change that perception? Maybe 3 days a week you come in at 8:30. Maybe you volunteer for a committee. Everything communicates in the world of branding. Ladies and gentlemen, there are only 2 things you can do with a brand. You can tarnish it or you can polish it. There are some brands that have been tarnished, never to return. You will not see O.J. Simpson do any more Hertz commercials. And that's not a negative toward O.J., but that's what you call tarnishing a brand. You've got to look at your personal brand as crystal. It is not rubber. If you drop rubber, it can bounce back. You drop crystal, you are over. Therefore, you need to be careful. So in the world of branding, clients that we've worked with for years, okay, we always talk about unpoliced brands lose their value. That's why McDonald's does mystery shoppers, to make sure that every franchisee is within spec, is complying to policies, procedures, and standards and practice. You've got to do the same thing for yourself. After a business meeting, do a debrief with yourself. Could I have been more dynamic? Could I have been more animated? Could I have been more prepared? Could I have listened more? Should I have spoken more? Should I have volunteered? It's no different. I started my career out as a college football coach many, many years. I don't measure it in years. 20 pounds ago as a coach. What does a coach do after a game? Looks at game films. You got to do the same thing. Unpoliced brands lose their value. Think about that. Think about your value. Now, I'm not going to give you branding 101 here. There's lots of terms in branding: brand equity and essence and loyalty and on and on. I'm going to share with you 2 important words that I want you to think about, because I have a homework assignment for you. Brand identity and brand image, okay? Brand identity and brand image. Now, let me give you a little bit of definition, okay, on those 2 words. Let's get it up here. Okay. Brand identity, what you hope and plan and work to be, what you hope to be perceived as, what you believe you are. What you believe you are. That's brand identity. Brand image, on the other hand, is what they see you as, what they believe you are, the way you're perceived. Henry David Thoreau in Walden Pond once wrote, "Could a greater miracle take place than to look through another's eyes for an instant?" Could a greater miracle take place? What a great miracle that would be, to sit down with some of your coworkers and jump in their head and see yourself the way they see you. So brand identity is what you believe you are, what you strategize to be. Brand image is what they believe. Now, since my beautiful redheaded wife is here, I'm going to share a story that she will validate during the break later, okay? I am heading out to Lost Wages, Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada, to make a speech at the Paris Hotel. And I check in to the Paris Hotel, and the gentleman behind the counter said, "Mr. Blumenthal, I've got some good news and I got some bad news." Okay. The bad news is we're out of rooms. Okay. The good news is we actually have 1 room in the hotel, but wanted to check with you. If not, we'll send you over to Caesars. And I said, what's that? And he said, "It's the bridal suite." I'm in Las Vegas alone. I take the bridal suite, 2 floors, spiral staircase, heart-shaped bed, baby grand piano, chocolate-covered strawberries every place. So I called my wife up to see if I could get her on an airplane, because this is pretty cool, right? And she was doing something, something insignificant, like taking care of the kids or something. I don't know what it was. And you see, so she knows I'm in Las Vegas. Now, when you're a college athlete, you make an investment. When you get to be my age, the interest is compounded daily. So I've had 2 hip replacements and a complete shoulder replacement. So I have to work out constantly to stay limber. I have a health club in my room, in the bridal suite. So I work out in the bridal suite. Now you got to remember, I'm in Las Vegas, okay, bridal suite. After I work out, and this is not a blue story, no blue humor here, I take a shower and I collapse on my bed with nothing on. And I look up. Oh my God. That can't be me. You see, my brand identity expected to see my head on Lou Ferrigno's body. So, as Kim will validate later, I called my wife up. We've only been married 33 years. And I said, "Honey, I have a question for you. Now, I know I'm in Las Vegas, and I know I'm in the bridal suite. I have a question for you. What do I look like naked? 20 seconds later, she responded with, what are you doing? But the point I'm making is, true story from the Blumenthal scrapbook is, my brand identity was dramatically different than my brand image. You've all done that. Back in the old days when we had cameras and film, we came back from the beach vacation and we turned to our significant other and said, why did you bring the fat camera to the beach? There's no way I could possibly look like this. Brand identity, brand image. So here's the homework assignment. Here's the homework assignment, my challenge to you. I want you, not now, but at your leisure, take time. Write down 10 words or 10 expressions that you believe define your brand, your personal brand. I believe I stand for integrity, and I'm open-minded, and I'm cerebral, and I'm witty, and I'm charismatic, whatever the case may be. And really think it out. And then go to friends and relatives and say to them, I'm trying to do a brand audit on my personal brand. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I want you to think about 10 words that come to mind when you think of me. Now, if they are absolutely on the money, your brand audit is high five. But what if you say cerebral and they said dense? What if you say smart and they say stupid? What if you said charismatic and they said boring? You got a brand disconnect. It's a really good exercise to do. Well-positioned brands, focus and sacrifice. Let me explain what I mean. Burger King is focused on 18 to 34-year-old men. 18 to 34-year-old men. Period, done, end of story. Ladies, they'll take your money, but they're not marketing to you. Oh, by the way, what's the menu mix at Burger King? It's a Whopper, an upsized fry, upsized Coke. By the same token, go to Oak Brook, Illinois, to the world of McDonald's, and you will see a totally different focus. So Burger King focuses on 18 to 34-year-old men and sacrifices women and kids. McDonald's goes after women and kids. McDonald's sells more salad than any other QSR, quick serve restaurant on the planet. Why? Because when the kids are having the McNuggets, mom is having a salad. Great brands, focus and sacrifice. You cannot be all things to all. Figure out what you stand for and be the best at that. Live it and be consistent. Be consistent with your companies. Be consistent in your houses of worship. Be consistent in your neighborhood. Be consistent with your kids. Dad stands for X. Period, done, end of story. Well, great song I'm not going to sing for you, but you may remember Unforgettable in every way. Great brands are unforgettable. It is better to be remembered than to be recalled. If I bump into you in O'Hare 2 weeks from now and you say, I remember you spoke at Hallmark, your name was Igor, Ivan, what was it again? I didn't do a good job of convincing you who Ira was. It's better to be remembered than be recalled. And you got to figure out a way to do that. I remember early on in my career, okay, with the Sara Lee Corporation, we had a sales guy who was known as the Candy Man because he went every week to a drugstore and bought a bag of candy, and all day long, every stop he made, every sales call, he dropped off a piece of candy. That's a story that goes back in my past almost 35 years, and I remember Nate because of that candy. It's better to be remembered than to be recalled. What if you thought of yourself as a brand? What if you thought about your own promise, your own positioning, your own consistency, your own respect? Do you know you deserve a break today as 32 years old? That's called consistent continuity in branding. You can't just turn around tomorrow and change. You've got to live it. You've got to breathe it. And a customized, similar approach can work for you. Study a little bit about corporate and product and service branding. This is a big idea. This is a huge idea. The most important brand in your life is brand you. I've got a buddy that lives in Chicago, lives in a place called Evanston. How many people here know Evanston? Bedroom community outside of Chicago, Northwestern University. Well, he told me the best, the single best think big story I've ever heard in my life, and I want to share it with you today. Now, if you know Evanston, there's only two ways to get to the Loop, downtown Chicago. You can either walk to the bus, you can take a train, or you can drive. Now, this guy took the bus. So every morning he'd walk to the corner. And one morning, this is a think big story, folks. Think big. Personal branding is a big idea. And oh, by the way, I want to repeat this. There's no brand in your life more important than your brand. So he went to the corner at the bus stop, and there was a little boy at a table. And next to the boy, there was a dog. A dirty, filthy, rancid, decrepit, disgusting, you get my drift, right? Okay. Dog. And next to the dog was a sign, dog for sale, 25 cents. Roz, would you buy a 25-cent dog? Well, you're a dog lover, but you got to figure that a 25-cent dog is probably missing a tail or an ear or something, right? It's got to be a bargain dog. So he says to the little boy, Sonny, think big. Ladies and gentlemen, think big. If I were you, little boy, I'd take that dog home, and I'd scrub him up, I'd fluff him up, I'd put a collar around his neck, clean him up, and raise your price. Think big. Think big. So the little boy did. So my buddy Aaron came back that evening, got off the bus, and there was the table, there was the chair, there was this beautiful white ball of fur, little beautiful Benji-looking dog, new sign, dog for sale, $10,000. So my buddy figured I've done enough damage for the day. The next morning, he goes to work. He stops at I'm sorry, the podium's in between us. I'll make a little eye contact over here. You guys feel better? Okay, now back over to this guy. Okay, so the next day he goes, he goes to the corner to go to the bus, and there he sees the table, the chair, no boy, no dog, and a line painted through, sold. Sold. He figured, wait a minute now, there's no way that this kid could have sold $10,000 dog, So he went to find the dog. He said, this was worth being late to work for. He finds the little boy, and he said, Sonny, congratulations. Congratulations, it looks like you sold your dog. And he said, yes, what a great message. Think big, and one day when I work for Hallmark, he didn't really say that, but I threw that in there, Dave and Don, just for, it's like it's a speaker thing. You throw that in there, One day when I get into business, I'll never forget. Think big. And I cleaned my dog up, and I raised my price, and I sold him. And then my buddy said, that's great. What did you get for the dog? And the little boy said, $10,000. He said, well, wait a minute now. There's no way in God's creation anyone would pay you $10,000 cash for that dog. And the little boy said, I didn't take cash. I traded him for two $5,000 cats. I thought that was cute. Well, Oscar Wilde once wrote, be yourself. Everyone else is taken. The day you were born, you were special. Why try to be like anyone else? There's a wonderful Mark Twain quote. The two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you found out why. You're special. Figure out how to extend that. So here's a wonderful Dr. Seuss. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself in any direction you choose. You're on your own and you know what you know, and you are the one who will decide where to go. It's in your hands. You are how many people here have business cards? Raise your hand. How many people here have brand manager on the business cards? 3, maybe 2. That's your title in your own life. You are your own brand manager. What are you going to do with your brand? How are you going to position it? How are you going to extend it? How are you going to shine it and polish it? How are you going to turn around and perhaps maybe alter it, raise the bar, and on and on. So I want you to visualize 2 sailing ships. Spirello once wrote, one ship sails east, one ship sails west. As the very same breezes blow, it's the set of the sail, not the gale, not the wind, that bids them where to go. Every one of you in this audience have the ability to raise the bar and absolutely figure out the next step for your brand. So as we wind this down, I've got about 8 minutes or 9 minutes left, I think. As we wind this down, my challenge to you is take a shot. Do the little exercise. It's really easy. And don't be upset if people around you put down the words you don't want to hear. That may just be a mirror. Maybe someone saying, I know you're smart, but you don't come off that way. Or I know you care about our company, but you're just not showing it. That exercise is important. Take a shot. So again, having my bride here, this is a family story. Anybody here ever coach any Little League sports? Okay. What do you coach? Basketball. Well, you're going to love this story. I am now, all 3 of my sons were either college basketball players. One is, okay? And obviously they get their height from me. They're all 6'3" or 4" or whatever. But so I'm coaching my 7-year-old son who's now 30. Do you ever see 7-year-old basketball? Yeah, that's when you shoot the ball up in the air, comes back, hits you in the face. All right, big scores at 10-8. So I am living in Naperville. I'm living in Naperville, Illinois. I am an incredibly successful coach. I have an incredible record, ladies and gentlemen. My record for my 7-year-old son, Eric, is 0-7. That's actually perfect. Those of you who are not sports fans, 0-7 is not that terrific. So I'm coming back from my 7th loss, and I look at my dear, sweet child, and he's crying. And I say to him the words that coaches have said forever. Don't cry. It's only a game. You realize only losing coaches say that. Yeah. You never heard a winning coach say, we cleaned their clock, we beat them by 40 points, but no, it's only a game. He says, Dad, I'm not crying because we lost. This is my first year playing basketball, 7 years old. And in 7 games, I haven't scored 1 point. I want to know what it feels like. My heart started racing. I taught the kids the box and one. I taught the kid out of bounds plays, traps, fast break offense, fast break defense. But I never taught them the most important rule in basketball. And ladies and gentlemen, the most important rule in your branding and business life. I never said to my son, you cannot score unless you shoot. Dear sweet Eric, in 7 games, you haven't taken 1 shot. Daddy forgot to tell you this rule. So I go out of town for game number 8. I'm 0-7. I entrust my team to Coach Paul. You probably know him. He lives in the cul-de-sac. Coach Paul's my assistant coach. I leave town. I'm 0-7. I call my son up. I say, Eric, how'd we do? Dad, we won our first game, 10-8, and I scored all 10 points. I'm thinking, move over Michael Jordan. I'm a marketing guy. I'm going to call my kid Eric. You'll be wearing Eric on your shorts and Eric on your shirts, and we'll be singing I Want to Be Like Eric. He'll be doing movies with Looney Tune characters. It's going to be great. Then it dawns on me, these kids lose 7 games straight while I'm in town. I leave. They win. So, Eric, what did Coach Paul, my assistant coach, what did Coach Paul to fire up the team? I mean, we're 0-7, folks. And my son said, oh, Dad, Coach Paul got the flu. Mom coached the team. I find it very rude for you to clap. That's very tough for me to talk about that story, especially with her here. I get on the court the next game at the Naperville YMCA, and they're chanting, we want Kim. We want Kim. Well, I can't thank you enough for inviting me. Scott Young is an amazing human being. He's a longtime dear friend, someone I have a lot of respect for. And I will tell you, too, Dave, Don, and those of you from the Hallmark family, I've got tremendous respect for your organization. And the stellar brands that you've assembled here today is just wonderful. So I want to thank you. So I came out here, if you recall, quoting 20th century philosopher Bob Dylan, okay, better known as Bob Zimmerman from Hibbing, Minnesota. About a battle outside raging and the changes. Well, I thought it'd be appropriate to end the session, at least my part of the session, with some words from that same philosopher. If you were to ask me, Ira, what's one other thing you could share with us about personal branding and growing our lives and our careers, I would say to you, don't grow old. Now, George Burns once said everyone's got to get older, but that doesn't mean you have to be old. I know 75 and 85-year-old people who have the heart and the energy and the spirit of 20-year-olds, and I know 25-year-olds who are over because they have none. The key to success is energy. So in the words of 20th century philosopher Bob Dylan, may your hands always be busy and may your feet always be swift. May you have a strong foundation as the winds of changes shift. May your heart always be joyful, and may your song, may each and every one of your individual personal branded songs always be sung. And may you stay forever young. Forever young, forever young. May you stay forever young. Thank you very much. Thank you.